Welcome back to the Remedial Film Class Podcast. I'm your host, Dan.
And I'm Travis.
I'm George.
And I'm Richard.
Richard's
back.
And Richard is coming to America.
Nice.
Well, hey.
Eventually, right? That's the deal. I think that's
I think so. We're just going to wait for, everyone to stop being nasty across, all different states, and then I'll fly across.
It's going to be a long wait. But hey, Now just for a technical clarification, we watched Coming to T.O. America as opposed to Coming to the number two America. Mm-hmm. So no number two in this one. This is pure number one.
I got confused for a second there. I was like, did I watch the wrong one? Did I watch the original having been supposed to watch the sequel? Thankfully, I watched the original.
You know what I found out this week, guys? There's a sequel to this movie.
There is, which is why we're watching it, because I want to watch the sequel.
I'm like, it's like Coming to America is what we're going to watch this week. The first one or the second one? I didn't know there was a second one.
The one in 88.
Good to know.
Yeah, I love the new trend in horror and other movie sequels of inserting numbers into the original title of the movie and expecting you to be able to pronounce it. Scree 4M was one of my favorites. Right. I mean, what?
Scree 4M.
What do we do in Scream? And then Scream 5, it's just 5 Crim.
I like straightforward movie titles like
Halloween,
Jackass Number 2.
Right.
I feel this is a problem you've only got with the Scream series of movies, though. I'm struggling to find another big series that this applies to in any genre.
Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you got me straight away. I haven't seen any of those films beyond the first one.
Save your time.
I watched the first one. I was like, I'd never need to see another one of these again.
Halloween 2018.
No,
I'm just confused with the whole Halloween timeline anyway, so... Yeah.
How much time you got? We can fix you.
I was going to say, we can go on for about a half a day.
Nah, let's cover this gem.
So, George, this is your fourth Eddie Murphy movie since we started the show. Your second John Landis cross Eddie Murphy movie.
This is John Landis? I didn't know
Your second Rick Baker.
I know all these names.
Your second Barney.
Barney.
The landlord is Barney from Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, is it really?
Frank Faison from The Wire.
Yeah.
He was awesome in The Wire. And I remember watching The Wire going, where the hell have I seen this guy? And it really bugged me. And then it was like, it was Coming to America.
Yes.
And of course, latterly, which Silence of the Lambs he was in?
Yes.
Not one of the weird Hannibal movies. He was in one of the weird Hannibal movies.
He was in one
of
the weird Hannibal movies, yes.
Yeah, I watched one of those recently, yeah, I remember. Okay, yeah, no, he's great. This is a film for, like, I forgot this person was in it. We'll get onto those later, I'm sure.
Yeah, dude, when, what's his name? Motherfucker, what's his name? Bad motherfucker.
Oh, Sam Jackson.
Yeah.
Well, dude, we just went straight into the big cameo.
Dude, yeah, exactly. Dude, when Samuel L. Jackson walks in to
the scene.
I'm like, what the and he's in it for like literally 45 seconds of the movie, and it's so
who the hell is this asshole?
So good.
How cool would a crossover movie be though? That was basically this is him becoming the character in Pulp Fiction. This is what led him to become the character in Pulp Fiction, like meeting this African prince has turned him into kind of like the bad, whatever. I don't know. Am I allowed to swear on this show? I forget.
Yes.
You're allowed.
And
100%.
Yeah, he took his cue from the Tim Roth character. Just walk in with a gun and try to rob a diner. Like, really?
Now, one thing, George, I don't know that you realize this, George, but this is one of, if not the first, like, standout roles that Sam Jackson had in a Hollywood movie.
Not just him either. Loads of people started in this film.
Mm-hmm. But 2 years later, 2 years after Coming to America, this is true. Sam Jackson is in Exorcist 3, which is one of my favorite horror sequels that someday I'll make you watch against your will. He is credited as Dream Blind Man.
Nice.
Wow.
Okay.
Like, even in 1990, he is not the Sam Jackson he will become just a couple years later.
So at what point does he become?
It was Pulp Fiction. That was it.
Pulp Fiction is the thing.
Yeah.
So what year was that?
91, I think.
94.
No, it was much later than that. Yeah, 94. Yeah.
He was in Jurassic Park in 93. He
Jurassic
has like
Park,
he has an ascent. You know, he's on the TV show Ghost Rider on PBS
Rider,
in 92. He's in Patriot Games. So he's making more. True Romance comes out the same year as Jurassic Park, so he's like getting into the Tarantino fold.
Okay,
But
so
he's not Lawrence Fishburne, and
No.
that exact period, only Lawrence Fishburne was Lawrence Fishburne. But he took everything at that like 3-year period. So
Yes.
now
And The
that
Time
has
to Kill.
changed.
He was a small part in, well, not a small part. He was integral to the story, but he didn't do a lot in A Time to Kill. But he was the guy on trial, and he shined in that movie as well. So yeah, he did have an ascension.
when I'm watching this movie, because I have no idea about timelines and such and when he became famous and this and that, I'm thinking that this is a huge get for this movie to put in as a cameo, as a joke.
It's so
Right.
much not a huge get. I honestly believe I want to pop in the VHS to see the original VHS credits. I believe he was Sam Jackson in the original
I
credits.
think you're probably right. I think you are almost certainly right.
Yeah,
Dude, that blows my mind.
yeah. And
'Cause
now
I've
it's Samuel L.
I've seen Samuel L. Jackson in lots of things.
Right.
I know him very well. I love his children's book. Do you guys all know about his
Mhm.
kids' book that you can read to your kids at night?
I do not. Is it
It's
sweary?
called Go the Fuck to Sleep.
Fuck sleep.
Yeah,
It's-
I have sort of heard about
Okay.
it. I thought this was a joke. I didn't think
No,
this was real.
no, it's a real thing. Yes, it's a real thing. But
Okay.
The lights are turned off. Now go to fuck to sleep.
anyway, that's hilarious. He wasn't even
Yeah, he
famous
was not
yet.
even famous.
He's a damn good actor.
Let's put it this
So-
way: Louis Anderson was more famous than Sam Jackson in this movie.
100%, 100%, and one of the few kind of people that we recognised over here, which I'll come on to in a bit.
Right.
Because this film, like for Americans at the time, was basically just like another Saturday Night Live romp.
Right.
For the UK, other than Eddie Murphy, we basically didn't know anybody in it. Oh, and of course, what's his face? Voice of Darth Vader.
James Earl Jones.
Yeah, that's the one.
Father of the guy from Sleepaway Camp. See how full circle
Yes.
Sleepaway Camp comes
Yes.
just in a couple of episodes, guys?
If you guys didn't bring it up, I was going to mention that.
Let's put it this way: Arsenio Hall was a nobody when this movie came out.
That blows my mind too.
Nobody.
And
he was
and never actually really hit over here at
Right,
all.
right.
Maybe
No, he
on the
was
like
huge.
cable channels, but he was. I remember, oddly enough, my whole family kind of like left this country and went to live in Queens. So in 1990, I went over to live to stay for a bit in Queens. So kind of like that's why I love this film so much, because
Right.
it's supposed to be Queens, even though I think most of it's set in Brooklyn, really. But that's another story.
Right. But he became huge. I mean, there was nothing bigger
Massive.
than the Arsenio
Yeah.
Hall show.
Right.
Like, he was it.
Yeah.
And he
And-
was brilliant in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I mean, this film is just a brilliant film. I think in some ways I prefer this over Trading Places. In other ways,
Yes.
this is basically a sequel to Trading Places. So, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I watched an interview with Rick Baker and John Landis when they talked about how this movie, other than Trading Places, allowed Eddie Murphy to play characters, not so much be Eddie Murphy, but like he gets lost in the makeup when he plays the old Jewish man, or when he plays Randy Jackson, like not Randy Jackson. What the hell's the
Randy
guy
Watson?
singing? Randy Watson. Randy Jackson was on American Idol. It's a no for me, dog.
Actually, he could
Episode 4 of That's My Mama, or whatever it was.
I believe the children are future. And what's
Yeah.
funny
The
is
whole
that
thing is just a master. Honestly, it's the whole thing from start to finish is so good. But the first 45 minutes of that film is literally just a joke a minute from basically
Yeah.
Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall with the supporting cast. It is absolutely unreal.
but I enjoy it when it gets to New York. Like, I like the beginning. It's setting everything up.
and you know what's so funny about the beginning is they lay everything on so thick.
Yeah.
That's why
Oh,
it's
it's
so good.
It
Like,
was
he
really, really interesting to watch it with HD vision today, because
yeah.
I've not seen it since the days of VHS.
the royal penis is clean.
I mean, again, I saw this film when it came out, right? Like 1989, I was a 14-year-old schoolboy who went to an all-boys school in England. This film was just the most quotable film ever. And that particular bit was just like, I know I'm going to love this film. Not only are there beautiful and half-naked ladies on my screen, but they've just made a very funny joke.
Most quotable is an understatement. Like I told, when George was young, a friend of mine, Tony McWilliams, big shout out to Tony, he and I would go back and forth and quote the barbershop scene, word for word, with character voices. And Tony was always better than me at it. Like he remembers shit way better than me.
Yeah.
But he would break me. He was so good at it. But we just determined it fell on deaf ears because George had no idea what we were doing.
Oh, George,
no idea.
Oh, you missed. The absolute best, and it stuck with me for life. Is every now and then in a meeting, I will just turn around and go, "Fuck you, and fuck you."
Who, Nick?
I mean, that is just the timing of that is brilliant. Everything about it.
And I don't care who someone said they met. I always said, "Man, you ain't never met Martin Luther the King."
It's such a quote, but going back to the beginning, like the opening crawl, like I can't believe I ever really thought that looked like a real palace. It's so clearly a painting with like a kind of stage in front of it.
Although they did say they copied it almost pillar by pillar to something in England. There's almost an Asian inspired.
It looks like the Brighton Pavilions, which is very Asian inspired. Actually, I didn't know that, but what I didn't know until today, because of course all of the music in this was Nile Rodgers, but John Landis had worked with Michael Jackson quite a bit. And when they do the African dance, when they're unveiling the bride at the beginning, that's basically the Thriller dance.
Thriller dance, yeah.
And I was like, I've never noticed that until now. So I thought that was really cool when I saw that.
It felt a lot like the Thriller video. And what's funny, it's Paula Abdul was the choreographer.
Right.
And she was a nobody. Well, she worked with Janet Jackson on the behind the scenes.
Right.
So she was a new discovery as well.
It doesn't get much more 1980s than this, honestly. No. And to add to it, they throw in some martial arts, and it's decent martial arts as well at the beginning. It's like, we're just gonna, we're gonna do a bit of Karate Kid for you just to keep your attention, 14-year-old school children, and it worked perfectly.
It was so impressionable. When I was a kid, we used to do play fights. We would always do that fake flip and then land with that stupid smile that Eddie had. Like, like he just did like 9 backflips and just landed. It was his stunt double the whole time.
Yeah, of course.
And we would just do that big smile. Like, bring it. Oh.
Now, don't forget that John Landis also directed the video for Black or White after this movie came out. And you can see some of the prototypical design stuff that they used in that video in this movie. So it's like... It's like a Michael Jackson. It's the filling in the Michael Jackson sandwich. No thanks.
You might want to erase that phrase from this entire thing. That's never going to end well for you.
Did you notice? Did you notice
we need
Eddie
a spray
Murphy?
Bottle for Dan?
Did you notice Eddie?
Travis left, but he has no idea what I'm talking about.
What did you say?
They do that on Richard's podcast. Whenever he says something, Brian sprays him with a water bottle.
Oh, right.
It's like a sound. It's funny. There you go.
Yeah, I remember talking about that last show we did. We talked about that.
A bit low powered, but yeah.
Well, it's a little squirt bottle.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Yeah. It's more like a water gun. Yeah, a little water pistol.
It'll do.
Did you notice Eddie Murphy's like homage to Elvis?
I did not.
When he's playing Watson, he's basically doing like 1978, 79 Elvis.
I suppose he is.
And
when he does the finger point at the end.
When he points off the stage, he's got his belly hanging out. Like it's his Elvis impression. It is the funniest thing.
I mean, I just laughed at it anyway because it is just physically, and that's the other thing about this film. It's physically very, very funny. Yes. There's a lot of physical humor in here, but it's done very intelligently, and that appeals to all ages. But yeah, I'm so glad you filled that in because that just made me laugh, and I don't know why. But also Arsenio as the pastor, it is literally like. Again, for us in, jolly old England, that's exactly what we think of kind of like religion out there. We're like, this is accurate, right? This is like a documentary.
His dad was a preacher, so he just did an impression of his father.
But the way he does it, the timing, it's just.
There's a God somewhere.
That's it.
It's so good.
That makes
well
me
done.
think of Tony as well.
Yeah, he does that too.
There's a preacher like in the area here that has like very late night on TV. Like
Pastor Gino.
Pastor Gino
Yeah.
comes on and he's like, "Listen at the Bible."
Listen at the
Like,
Bible. He would
Yeah,
say. Listen. Yes, it's so real. But that scene is so
Tony would do that
Yes.
impression.
We would talk
to a
about
T.
during Spinal Tap how amazing everybody plays off of each other.
Yeah.
The characters in that scene, I could watch 7 hours of just that scene of those guys just going back and forth, because you're not only getting like Arsenio Hall is upstaging everybody
Right.
as the preacher.
Yeah.
100% is.
But then Eddie's answering back with the Jackson or the
Randy Watson.
Randy Watson. But then
Randy Jackson.
the three old guys, Eddie Murphy's doing some brilliant shit there. Like when he's like, "That boy good," he's like, yeah. he's like, "Yeah, good
I
and
told
terrible."
you you could sing.
Good and terrible. Like I've used that line so many times when someone says something's good. I'm like, "Yeah, good and terrible." But it's like he's doing it subtly. He's not Eddie from
like,
'81.
Like whenever Dan shows us a movie.
Yeah.
Hey.
Not always. Not always.
It
But
was incredibly convincing. Like every one of them was very convincing in their barbershop get up.
Oh,
And it, like you say, you could just watch it forever. And the beauty of it is even with like looking at it back with the HD goggles on, it still stands up.
Oh,
the
absolutely.
makeup job there is absolutely first class. In fact, I'd say it's better than some of the later ones, you know, because they did everything they could to make him. And it's kind of lovely in a kind of way that it's that reverse blackface thing as well. There's a kind of, there's a real nice political sensibility about this film. I think it really does say a lot about kind of like, look, can we just laugh at everything now, please? Which I love.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Rick Baker talks about the makeup for the old Jewish guy, and he says it's so good. The studio said it's so good, we can't tell it's Eddie. And
No.
we paid for Eddie.
Yeah.
So all the other makeups have to be more Eddie Murphy. So when he plays, is it Clarence? I can't remember Clarence, the old guy, the barbershop guy. He looks like Eddie. Like they just put like different hair on him or
Yeah,
whatever.
you can tell.
But you cannot tell that's Eddie Murphy.
No.
That's the old Jewish guy.
No, you
It's
really can't.
So good, and his accent, it's like just perfect, and everything he's saying. There's nothing racial about that scene at all, and it's great. Like you could watch that scene and never feel uncomfortable laughing at anything. It's just it's all around hilarious.
Yeah, it was like every I think the Jewish guy, the barber, like they were all stereotypical, but it wasn't like there wasn't anything.
It was good natured.
Exactly right. It was like, let's just make fun of everybody.
Every time a white guy bring up Rocky Marciano.
Yeah, like
he beat Joe Lewis's ass. Yeah. It's so good.
It is. And again, so I think I mentioned before, I came from a kind of mixed race family, and I grew up in the whitest part of England. And having a film like this, which kind of was a breakthrough movie for kind of watching a almost all black cast for a kind of like backwater English community was groundbreaking for me, and I loved it. But the thing about it is everybody in it makes you laugh. Doesn't matter what their role is in this film. Everything about it, even the servant, when he does the singing and he mentions being completely free of disease. Right. Every single thing about it is so well done. It's just, I love it. I love this film. And I thought today, I'd watch it again, and it'd be like when you watch Trading Places again. Great film, makes you laugh. You've forgotten a few bits, brilliant. This, I was literally holding my sides with laughter. And it was the things like I remember at the time, like, the first time we came out of the cinema, I saw this in the cinema, and we came out, I was like, that was Eddie Murphy in that makeup. No, that was Eddie Murphy. Yeah. No way. It was genuine disbelief as like a 14-year-old.
You know, it's funny. You know the scene where Eddie Murphy is walking home and he's singing "To Be Loved"?
Yes.
I have I haven't ever seen that scene.
Right.
But I've heard you and Tony do it back and forth. You sing it. Tony's like, "Shut up!" And I've heard, like, I've heard,
fuck you too.
yeah, I've heard the audio, like I've heard the audio so many times of you guys doing impressions of
Right.
it that when that scene happened, I was rolling.
familiar.
I was crying. It was so funny.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen this movie probably 50, 60 times all the way through, not just like scenes here and there. And I still laugh at the right times. Like when he's like Richard said, fuck you, and fuck you. Who next? Like I just started laughing. I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But it's just the delivery is so perfect.
And again, like you said, the balcony scene where he goes out to the balcony and it's like, hey, fuck you. Yes, fuck you too. It's
And
just
the basketball game. The basketball game's hilarious. He's in the face. He's like yelling. And
It's like, you guys call it soccer.
Oh, and LaSalle in that movie's great too. Like,
Oh, man.
he plays such a smarmy prick.
Yeah.
and again, it is literally how many gags can we fit into the first 45 minutes? Soul Glow itself.
Glow.
So the music, brilliant. You know,
How
everything
obnoxious
about
is that
it.
song?
And then the couch gag where they're at the kind of wedding party that never was, where the three of them get up and there's just the dripping patch.
His
God.
mother and
behind.
father and
So
grandmother
bad.
get off the
You know
couch
what I
with their
mean?
heads
It's
were-
like the grandmother
bad.
was just there to make that gag work. There's no reason to have her in other than we need three heads here, all of different ages,
three
all
spots.
greased up, right? Brilliant. The whole thing is brilliant. And like, again, so much of this film is quotable. I still say, you know, in like marketing meetings, I'll be like, well, they've got the Big Mac, we've got the Big Mac. It's just the classic marketing 101. We're just going to rename one letter and get away with it. So
We have the golden arcs.
it's just everything about this film. I tried to hate it a bit today and I couldn't. I came away loving
way.
it more. Yeah.
And what's great is even like every supporting member, like everybody got the memo.
Right.
It doesn't matter
right.
if you had one line. Like Cuba Gooding Jr.'s in this movie.
Yeah, he is.
He does not have a line.
His first ever movie.
First ever movie, he's the kid getting his hair cut in the barbershop. You're never going to fucking see him. With those three in there talking, you don't even know Cuba Gooding Jr.'s sitting right there.
Right.
But he's there.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
I missed it.
He apparently had a line, but they cut it out.
Yeah, apparently they had a line where he had some of his hair cut off because he didn't pay enough or didn't tip enough or something like that. I can't remember, but I didn't get it. But today when I rewatched it, I immediately stuck X-ray on. When I saw it, I was like, surely, yes, it is. It 100% is. And it's got like you say, it's just got a stellar cast. The guy who plays the dad,
John Amos.
yeah, he. Obviously, I kind of know him most from Die Hard 2, I think.
Right.
But again, just a brilliant kind of like stand-up actor who kind of improvised a bit in this and made it funny. And as I said before, James Earl Jones, who does say at least one Vader-esque line in it, he just brings so much gravity to everything he does because his voice is crazy. But also, just like when he's like being a bit cheeky with Prince Akeem, it like the looks on his face just make you laugh. It's brilliant. I love this film.
Oh, when he
had a lot of
pops
fun.
into the room and he says, "Oh, I can see you're getting along," while she's barking like a dog.
It is that look on his face then
Barking
is
like a dog.
brilliant.
Well, and
He's a
his
big dog.
Eddie's breaking of the fourth wall.
Right.
When he turns to the
I
camera and
assume-
he's just like, "She's really doing this. She's barking
Oh
like
yeah,
a
he
dog."
broke the fourth wall with the Deadpool
Yeah.
Ferris Bueller
Well,
thing. Yeah.
there was multiple of that.
Yeah,
But
Eric,
that's a trademark for John Landis, isn't it?
Yes.
The kind of the fourth wall is like a bit flexible with him, I would say.
Yes.
yeah, the end when the sister's trying to get Daryl out of his clothes and Eric LaSalle looks at the screen like, "Uh-oh."
But again, another example of a great scene that as a teenager we loved was when they're at the game and he's sat next to the sister and she puts the coat over him. It was just, again, such brilliant physical comedy. Very little was said.
And
it's
if you
just
notice, when he walks away, he doesn't let the coat drop, so he's
No,
covering
I
his
no,
Hardy.
It's there for all the way up until he gets accosted in the hallway.
Which is hilarious as well.
Yeah, honestly, again, I was watching it going, there's literally a joke every every minute for the first 45 minutes.
Like, who
then
was
it becomes
that?
a love
Just
film.
the man I met in the bathroom.
It's like, okay.
Okay, what did you do to him in there? Because he kissed your hand. And took a bow. So good.
Yeah, no, it's such a great film. So George, tell us, how did you find it?
Oh my God, it's perfect. It's perfect.
It's an easy watch, isn't it?
Oh, so easy, so easy. I could watch this again anytime.
Yeah,
anytime.
and you will.
Anytime it's on, I'll watch it.
Yes.
I'll watch it again. Dude, I mean, everything that we've been saying is true. You know, the first scene, like in the palace, where they really they put it on thick, is so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's 21 years old and he's like, all he wants to do is like wipe his own butt. And they're like, no, you're a prince, you can't do that. Like, it's so over the top. It's hilarious.
He's Halloween 21. He looks 31.
yeah. It's like it's so good. And then I mean, you can't. How can you not like this movie, dude? When he's in the barbershop and like he wants to get a haircut, and he's like, just clean it up, and like he just cuts his ponytail off, and he's like, all right, it's $8. Like, dude, like it's so funny. Like I mean, I can't say anything negative about this movie at all. I mean, at the very end, you're like,
a little princessy.
yeah, it got a little like, you got to suspend disbelief for the past, minute. But
Hold
other
on.
than
You don't
that-
have to suspend disbelief until the last minute of this movie?
No.
Oh, wow.
No.
It's a little
Wow.
fantastical. It's a Disney movie.
I'm now
No.
going to have to break it down to you, but Zamunda doesn't exist.
Yeah. It's
Zamunda
Wakanda
is a
forever.
made-up-
Wakanda
It
forever.
is.
No. What I mean is like, I don't know what I mean. I loved
get
the
it.
movie. I loved it.
It feels a little bit like the arc of a musical in a theatre because there's always a lot of comedy in a musical and a lot to kind of get your emotions going. But then there's always the kind of slightly lovey-dovey,
lesson.
dreary bit in the third act that you have to kind of like, am I invested or not? But here you kind of are invested. I remember the feel-good feeling when it all came right at the end. And like there were so many happy points to the final scene that you were like, yeah, this works. So again, there are films where this does grate on a bit.
Actually,
this
that's
sort
a
of bit.
perfect analysis because, like, I've done a lot of plays and I've done musicals, and for me, the fun part of the musical is Act 1. You're getting all the character banter, you're getting all the jokes, you're getting maybe an epic scene, a cliffhanger to the intermission, and then you come back from intermission, and the play usually just kind of lulls. It's like, oh, we got a lesson. We got to teach the lesson. We got to have the love story. We got to do these different things. All the fun shit happened in the first act. For me, that's what this movie is. But the second act in this movie is only about 10 minutes long. So I'll
and
That's
there's
true.
so much that gets crammed into the kind of first act, as it were. It's like you don't care. You're just laughing at everything by this point. It's just everything is funny. But actually, it becomes a little bit sitcom-y in the middle. There is a bit where it all kind of feels a little bit like it could be on a Saturday morning show. But no, they keep it at pace, and it's well thought out, I thought.
But they do it right. Like when the king shows up at the house in whatever part of North Jersey that house is in, John Amos plays it so well that, like you said, it feels like a sitcom, but it seems real-ish.
Yeah.
But then once he starts like demeaning everybody, once the king starts demeaning everybody, and then Amos goes into like full
that was
Bayonne mode.
that was fantastic.
Yeah,
he's gonna. I'll break my foot in your royal ass.
he's
Like that's
like,
exactly
That's
what you
my
would
daughter,
hear.
Jack.
Yeah, that's exactly what we would say.
Yeah.
But that's the lovely moral of this story is like there's a kind of like no matter how rich you are, there's always someone richer, and if you are at the top, you still got to be a human being, and that thread runs throughout this film.
Until
you kind
someone
of get
hands
it
you a bag full of money and you're a street bum, and then you just turn into what you used to be.
right, which was such a lovely bit though.
That was.
I think a lot of stuff went over my head. Like I know that there's jokes in here I didn't get. Like,
Do you know who the two old guys were?
No.
They are the two old guys from Trading Places that do the bet.
Okay. That
Makes more sense
That
now.
is amazing. It went right over my head.
Yeah.
I was like, I know that this is a joke. I know I'm supposed to get this. I have no
Don
idea what's going on
Amici
right now.
and what's the name of the other dude?
What the heck's his name?
Dude, now that I know that, that is so
It's brilliant.
funny.
What
Yeah.
only would have made it better is if Dan Aykroyd made an appearance in this movie somewhere.
Oh
But-
my
Right.
God.
I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis kind of does make an appearance in this movie.
Does she?
Well, kind of. So on the subway scene, and Landis is so good at subway scenes.
Yes.
There is the poster for See You Next Wednesday,
Yes.
which again is a John Landis kind of classic. And on that poster, you can see clearly starring Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh,
So he
wow.
brought her into the film through his own little amusing
good.
gag on himself. But yeah, I was like, yes, that's Dan Aykroyd would have been the, or Denham Elliott would have been the piece of the missing puzzle. But I love it. I love that it can work as a sequel to that film. If you want
Yes.
it to be, it is. It's up to you.
And it worked. 'Cause I
So-
remember back then when it happened, I was like, oh my God, it's the guys from Trading Places. Like, I knew right away. I'm like, it's the same thing.
I didn't.
Yeah.
But that's now that I know that, that's hilarious. What was going on when they're in the airport? What's his name? Semi and
Akeem.
Akeem.
and I don't know if they're leaving. No, they just arrived in New York, I think. Maybe they were just leaving. I'm not sure. But like they come over the loudspeaker and they say like they're asking someone to like pick up a phone or something like that.
Oh.
It like comes over the loudspeaker and I'm like, I'm sure that was probably a joke,
Right.
but
I'll
I
have to
don't
listen.
get it.
I'll have to go back. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I probably have heard it. But
I'm
trying to
sure that
remember.
there's a ton of stuff. Like I thought the movie was great. I'm sure that there's more stuff that I just didn't see, didn't get. Because
Well,
you have to know
100% there
something to
is,
get it.
because for us, with all the stuff in the barbershop, we'd never seen Roots over here. Roots was
Right.
not a series that had played over here. So
Hey,
when they
it's got the
started
kid
talking, you're right. When he said that name, I was like, this must be some like historic figure from like African culture. I had no idea who it was. And then of course you find out that I think was it Frankie Faison was in that. One of the actors was in Roots, as was James Earl Jones.
Yes,
So there
and
was
I
kind
think
of
John Amos was in Roots.
that's who I meant. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So again, like stuff that goes over like a lot of people's heads, but it was just funny. Just the delivery of it was so funny. We didn't care. It was brilliant.
Actually, the best inside joke is the fact that James Earl Jones becomes Mufasa in '94, I think.
yeah,
And I'm
and,
not
and
sure
he's wearing a tiger
he's
or he's wearing a lion. Yeah.
But I mean, he's playing Mufasa in this movie.
Yeah, he
and
is.
It's like he even has the anything the light touches. You know, he
Yes.
has that moment with Akeem before
Yeah.
he comes to America. So it's like he must have been auditioning for The Lion King doing this movie and not even realizing it. Like,
yeah.
because that movie probably took how many years to write?
Yeah, I wonder
And
if
then how many
Disney
years to
had
animate?
already decided to rip off that anime at this point, or if they saw this
Yeah.
movie and were like, "Hey, that Japanese anime, we could totally rip it off, and that guy could be the king."
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. Who knows what order that event went in? Hi, this is Dan in Post. I had a little mind-blowing incident after we finished recording this episode when I realized that the clip from The Simpsons, from when Bleeding Gums Murphy dies and Lisa sees Darth Vader and Bleeding Gums and Mufasa in the cloud, is now owned by Disney. So my children are watching The Simpsons on Disney Plus, owned by Disney, showing a clip where they call out Kimba the White Lion as the influence for Lion King. What a time to be alive.
Because it does take a long time to animate a movie. So they could have started that in '88
Years,
easily.
yeah.
Easily.
What year did Lion King come out?
94, I think.
Well, I think maybe earlier than that. I'm thinking 92.
It was 94. For once, Travis
Okay.
got it on the
I'm
nose.
right.
Oh, wow.
Travis is always within a year or
On the
two,
nosy.
generally.
Give
Well.
him a set to give.
I did
is that
see,
Young
I saw
Frankenstein.
Lion
Oh,
King
right,
in
right.
New York, actually.
Ah,
So, yeah. So I've forgotten I was in New York in I think I was in 94, 92, and 90. I was in New York, in Queens mainly. So,
Wow.
Yeah. No.
Speaking of
I've
Queens,
messed that up.
the friggin' taxi driver, hilarious. When he stands right in front of the taxi outside the airport and puts his hand up like stop.
Yeah,
he
halt.
jumps out. What does he say?
Dumb fuck, I think.
Dumb fuck.
Yeah.
He's like,
Simi,
dumb fuck
what does a
mean?
dumb fuck mean?
But the delivery of that line was so perfect because I'm sure he's from North Jersey easily, that actor.
Mhm.
I can't remember what his name is, but he was kind of big in the 80s, character actor. But yeah, just that dumb fuck. I was like, if I was ever going to be in a movie and that's the one line I was given, I would totally just end with the like that, like, dumb fuck. Like, totally played it.
Hey, so Coming to America releases in the U.S. June of '88.
Okay.
And in October of '88, they hold a meeting with Thomas Dish and Katzenberg and all the guys from Disney and start working on a treatment for something at the time called King of the Kalahari, which
Okay.
eventually
I
becomes
wonder what film that became.
The Lion King. How
Nice.
interesting, guys. I was bullshitting, and now it turns out actually I might have been right.
I'm sure it was a total inspiration.
That's hilarious.
Just like they named it Zamunda because I think the writers were paying homage to the Andy Kaufman's right-hand man. I think his last name was Zunda or something like that, but they couldn't do Zunda.
Okay.
Landis was like, that doesn't sound African, so then he made it Zamunda. But it's like, yeah, just the inspiration, that what it comes from and what it develops into. Like, they basically were probably inspired by Wakanda because I think the Black Panther comic book came out in the 70s. So
Yeah, that's the vibe that I got.
yeah.
I love when they were in the museum
Mm.
and he like has to like get her
Yeah.
to not see the portrait of the royal family. It's so funny. So good. It was like a Seinfeld moment
It definitely was a
You
Seinfeld
know?
moment.
or like a yeah.
I feel a lot of American situation comedy drew inspiration from this film. I
yeah.
see a lot of sitcoms have feeling that probably kind of came through the Landis school of direction anyway. So that can't be too far from the truth.
Like, how many times does Louis Anderson have to get screwed over? Like, he was, when he spilled the milkshake, then it was taken from him, and then they were robbed. Like, it was just an ongoing thing with him. And he's perfect for that part.
Yeah.
He's such a good comedian.
Now, George, are you familiar with Louis Anderson's comedy at all? The guy that plays he works at the what's the restaurant called? The McDonald's knockoff.
McDowell's.
McDowell's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recognize him, but I can't really place it. I know that he's like, in the comedy universe at the time.
Oh, God. His stand-up is awesome.
When
Yeah.
you were little, when you were a kid, he had a show on Fox Kids, along with like Batman the Animated Series and Bobby's
Yes.
World, called Life with Louie. And it was all about his childhood.
And it was his adult voice and a child.
Yeah.
pretty
So he was one that, along with Howie Mandel, kind of got shoved into all of our zeitgeists thanks to Fox Kids.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, me, thanks to HBO comedian specials. My dad, he was like, we would watch Howie Mandel and Robin Williams and Louis Anderson and Bob Saget. Like, all those guys did comedy routines on HBO.
Right.
So
Yeah, I don't know where I know him from. I don't know that show from my childhood, Dan. So I
that's
don't.
funny.
Maybe if I saw it,
Like,
maybe
you
I'd
guys grew
recognize
up
it.
on bands.
Yeah.
I grew up on comedians.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, yeah, I saw him in 88.
Yeah.
I have the T-shirt. How'd you like the movie, Dan? Is this your first time seeing it?
Oh, no. I
Yeah.
watched it. I'd only seen it once, and I watched it because the sequel was coming out. So I was like, hey, I'll watch this. I hear it's good. It's perfect and wonderful. And then the sequel is fine.
It's everything you complained about. It's everything. They fixed everything that was wrong with Trading Places.
Yes, it is all the good stuff from Trading Places,
Yes.
but they cut out all the crap they shouldn't have put in that movie and
Right.
replaced it with
And
more
all
wonderful
the
stuff.
appropriation, even though it is appropriation, a lot of the appropriation happens behind the scenes because it's all just a bunch. It's a white director. His wife was the costume designer.
Yeah.
She's like a lot of like old New York Jewish friends of his, but they were all so respectful in creating this world and creating the costumes and creating these characters that you felt like this country really exists and these people are well off and are running the world. They could run the world. People.
It's almost a perfect example of what Americans can do when they all put aside their differences and work together.
Oh, it's immoral.
That's kind of sweet.
I mean,
I don't know
honestly,
if I agree
that
with
is
that,
kind
but
of
it
like
is-
our
it is
strength,
sweet.
right?
Yeah. No,
like,
it is. You're
like
right.
having multiple people from multiple backgrounds, and we can do better because we have diversity.
You need that and arranged marriages.
Right.
I read a review years ago for Slumdog Millionaire, written by a guy who was, I think, English but of Indian descent, and he was arguing that Slumdog was one of those things where, like, it is technically appropriation because it's made by Danny Boyle, who's British,
Right.
but it is the equivalent of taking Indian food and then presenting it in like an English. Oh, I'm doing a terrible job of. But basically,
I
it's
kind of
like
get where you're going though.
Yeah, it's like-
because
there's something with the improvement of and like the refining of traditions, but then through a lens that's not familiar with them in a way that it like breaks it down to its more fundamental and true.
it finds the commonality in the culture, because over here, definitely in England, the English curry house is an institution, and actually the curries are more anglicised than in any other country in the world. But it's because we had this big relationship with India, and even though there's a kind of history of all kinds of nonsense on both sides, the reality is I think both cultures found bits of each other that they loved. And if you go to India today, you can definitely see that. And of course in England, as I say, you definitely have a love of curry. So that has changed that. And I kind of feel the exact same thing with Slumdog Millionaire, because it took some of the elements of Bollywood film, some of the drama, some of the songs, some of the colour, some of the cinematography, but it wrapped it into a Western palette, but still the story was the same. It's exactly how you would get it in a Bollywood film, just not as much dancing and singing. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's growing. That's not cultural appropriation. It's not poking fun or stealing or anything. It's trying to find a common understanding. And if more people probably did that, then we'd get more coming to Americas and less coming to Americas. See what I did there?
I saw what you did there. So I found it. It's called An Indian's Take on Danny Boyle's Slumdog Millionaire. So we're going to talk quickly about a
who's it
movie
by?
we're not talking about today. This is from ain'titcool.com, which is now, I guess,
Oh yeah,
not
that
quite
guy.
as cool as it used to be thanks to certain things. But in 2008, it was still cool, I promise. Okay, so he says, this is just a quote here. Now, if you go to the East Village often and feel like eating Indian food often and go to these authentic restaurants often, you'll find something strange. The only good Indian food in that entire block is served by a British chain restaurant, Brick Lane Curry House. It looks clean and well maintained, and the food has, more or less, the right balance of spices. Having grown up watching Bollywood movies, that's exactly how I feel about Slumdog Millionaire. Most Indian movies are fairy tales, and fairy tales in popular culture are for two things: to highlight a moral value or to escape the burdens of reality. It's a long, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but
that's common in all art. All art has either a message or an element of escapism or a blend of the two. And that's what he did. So, I mean, as I say, I'm half Indian. Half my family's Indian. I think Slumdog Millionaire was a great film. Beautiful for everybody who watches it, I think.
Shouldn't have won the Oscar, though.
and-
Dark Knight should have won. What's up?
I'm not going to argue with that.
No offense, Richard.
But a very good movie.
No, it's none taken. And look, again, if the world cared less about pointing out the divisions in everything and more about the similarities, maybe we'd stop bombing each other. Hot take politically. I'm on a roll tonight.
Whoa. You can't say that, Richard.
This episode brought to you by Northrop Grumman. Oh my god. But yeah, so
but anyhow,
of the
curries
show.
are good. I do like a curry.
it does feel like this movie coming to America, America, is a step in the right direction toward giving people voices and letting more voices into the room other than just the traditional white Hollywood perspective. So they're in the right direction, and we've made a lot of progress since then. You know, with more diversity in directors, producers, and everything, just to kind of get people the opportunity to tell their own, own unique story. This is definitely a lot closer to that than we were even a couple of years earlier with Trading Places. Yeah. Not the spaces.
Trading Places. We didn't redo any rooms.
Yeah, Trading Spaces is HGTV, I think.
Dan's been watching a lot of that while he's been remodeling his house, though. That's what's happening here. And the truth is coming out.
But what you're talking about the Indian restaurant is what Landis's wife was worried about when she was doing the costume designs. She was basically afraid of being a Jewish white woman from New York, creating these African nations and their clothes and their culture and all this stuff. And she took it seriously, but then she also thought, people are going to accuse me of taking inspiration from here and there, not realizing for 30 years that's been her hobby, is African culture. Like, she's been learning it for her whole life.
Yeah, like no matter how respectful she was going to try to be,
Someone was gonna come
or
after
how
her for it.
accurate she was going to try to be, and how much of an expert she probably is in it.
Right.
She still was going to get shit.
Right.
For
But it was
designing.
done.
She said she didn't care. She gave
And
it
it was
the
done
respect
with
that it was
love,
deserved.
and it was done absolutely brilliantly because it looked convincing. The costumes, the spectacle, it looked incredibly convincing and well kind of researched, I think.
And she was able to show class without showing poverty.
Yeah.
Like, she showed servants, she showed royalty, she showed, different families from different countries at, galas or whatever, but there was no poverty. Even, like, the servants were servants, but they were taken care of. They were paid, they were whatever. Like, everybody looked healthy, everybody was happy. It wasn't like this hierarchy of different class, which was it was a good way to do it. And then you showed New York, which is the complete opposite.
Yeah, you didn't see any poverty until you got to New York.
Which was funny.
Well, yeah,
like when Akeem's like, I want to go to
it's
the worst place ever, and he's like, oh,
the most common.
I know where I can take you.
The most common place.
And then the outline of the blind dog and the blind man and his cane.
The cane. The masking tape cane.
Shame what they did to that damn dog.
It's not even an outline of the cane. It's just literally a cane drawn in masking tape. They didn't even bother to outline it.
It's not even
so
outlined.
silly.
Oh
this place is real fucked up.
He's like, there's bugs in this bathroom, but you guys from Africa are used to that. Like, it was so rude. So rude. They're looking like, what?
But again, it showed something that is very real amongst cultures, which is, there is racism between every culture. It isn't just between, one color of skin versus another. It is people from one area to people from another area, and it has been from the beginning of time.
Well, the cabbie even says it. He's like, guys like you should be going to Manhattan. Like, he was already classifying them as not
from Queens,
and should not go to Queens. So, yeah, it happens everywhere here.
Yeah, 100% it does. And again, what was lovely about the film was the whole juxtaposition of the incredibly wealthy kind of African nation, then the world's most wealthy nation, but everyone is in poverty and in violence. And then you've got this guy who's got this restaurant who thinks he's a up-and-coming guy, and he's treating the guys who are actually seriously old-school wealthy, as if they're his servants, and they're kind of like going on along with it.
His face is literally on the money.
Yeah.
Right. It's it's such a lovely twist of that whole story. And that, I think, is what makes us all feel good. I think that's what gives you the feel-good factor in this film.
They're also able to show the two versions of capitalism, too, because you have McDowell, who's doing it right. He's living the dream. He's building a business. He's creating an empire. And then you have Daryl's character, the Soul Glow Prince, who's inheriting money and basically is the face of a company that's making him rich, and he's a prick, and he's greedy, and he's cheap, and he doesn't. He's nothing charitable about him. There's nothing good. There's not a saving grace, and that's two versions of this country. Like, you have people that understand that I'm gonna follow my dream, and I'm gonna make money, but I'm gonna do good with it, and then you have people like Daryl.
I think Mr. McDowell's money train would eventually end.
In a lawsuit.
Yes, but I thought it was really, really, really good when Eddie Murphy was in his house and Mr. McDowell's like showing off his house, and he's like, and maybe after 20 years of working or whatever, you can get to this level too. And he's like, what do you think of that? And Eddie Murphy just says, that would be something.
That would be something.
Yeah.
You want the
he
coin
gives
with
a
my
little
face on it?
eyebrow,
I love the way Eddie Murphy never lies.
Mhm.
Like he never lies to the chick that he's that he wants to be his queen. I forget her name.
Lisa, I think.
Lisa.
Was it Lisa?
When she's like when she says it's because of the condition of your apartment. Like you're embarrassed by it, and he's like, yeah.
No,
Once
it's my
again,
half-naked servant in there in the
well,
hot
no,
tub.
well, no, he doesn't want his apartment to look like that.
There is a big rat.
He is
a big rat.
Seriously though, he's ashamed of the way his apartment looks.
Right.
And she's like, "You're just ashamed of the way your apartment looks." And he's like, "Once again,
Yes,
you've
you're
figured it out." He didn't lie. That is the truth. It's
Yeah.
not.
No,
You
you're
know. It's not what. She thought it looked like crap, but he comes home and it looks amazing.
No,
he's
his
like,
character and Semi's were just so well thought out in this film,
yeah.
I thought. Because you just think, these are two people who could be massive pricks. They're from hugely wealthy upbringing, and actually, these are the guys who are the good guys throughout, which is really satisfying to follow that arc, even though, Arsenio plays the laughing part. Whenever there's serious stuff, he's always there.
Right.
And it works so well. It gives you such a nice, never judge a book by its cover from the get-go type moral, which is, I think, what lifts this film up. Like I say, it's a perfect feel-good movie.
Until he
Great
dresses
Christmas
in drag.
film.
That bar scene.
But that bit was absolutely hilarious.
Tear your friend apart.
That's so good. Oh my god!
No, he
that was
says,
so
I'll tear
funny.
you apart and your friend too.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah, for everything Eddie Murphy can do with his eyebrows, Arsenio Hall can do with his mouth. His smiles and his gum action is pretty good in some of those scenes for sure. That's brilliant though. I just felt sorry for the woman who had to play the boring girl. I was like,
Yeah, right.
that's a script you don't want to be picked for.
Then I want to be a singer. Then I want to be an artist. It's like, oh my god.
When Eddie Murphy's like pretending to fall,
Nodding off.
like when he's falling asleep and his head goes like all the way back, like, huh? I was like,
Like he
oh
tried
my
so
God,
hard
it's
and
so
then
funny.
flap.
He's like, oh. I think his head just goes all the way back, and he's like, oh shit.
You ain't gonna find no good girls there. You gotta go to church.
But you know what?
You gotta go where I'm at.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
He's not
Yeah.
wrong.
Go to where I'm going tonight. Oh. I could watch that chapter over and over again.
Definitely. I'm so disappointed the sequel wasn't funny.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Don't let me totally kill it. It exists.
I want to
and
see
it's a
it. I haven't
movie.
seen it yet, but I'm still gonna watch it.
Yeah, I
what's
might
funny-
try and force it down over Christmas.
The DVD that I popped in had like a preview. I guess they were selling a collection of Eddie Murphy movies, and I watched that commercial. I'm like, oh my god, like what wasn't he awesome in? Like other than Norbert and some parts of the Nutty Professor. Dude's
What was that one he did with Richard
genius.
Pryor where they played gangsters?
I like Harlem Nights. That wasn't too bad.
Oh yeah, that one.
I love Boomerang. It's so 90s, but I love
I've
that
never
movie.
seen Boomerang.
Oh my god.
The Golden Child, I think, was the moment where I was like, I've had enough Eddie Murphy for one lifetime.
Golden Child, I don't think was his fault. I think that was somebody miscasting him. He should not have been in that. He might have produced that or something.
And again, you can't underestimate how massive Eddie Murphy was for a period of the late 80s.
Oh god.
And then he became massive in the early 90s, and you had all the Meet the Clumps or whatever and all that stuff. But like Beverly Hills Cop, Trading Places, Coming to America, these three films were three of the greatest films of their period in so many ways.
Every once in a while, you're going to get your haunted mansion, which is fine. I mean,
exactly.
He was in that last leg of old studio days where it's like, all right, we're going to sign you to an 8-picture deal.
Right.
You want to make Beverly Hills Cop 2 and 3, you have to make Haunted Mansion. Like stuff like that.
Yeah.
that doesn't happen anymore. But back then, that's when you sit there and you go, what the hell was Schwarzenegger thinking when he made that movie? And it's like, oh, he got to make Conan, he got to make Kindergarten, Cop, he got to make all these movies, and then he had to do Raw Deal or,
it's not a tumor.
It's not a tumor. It's not a tumor. Not a tumor at all.
It's not a bad accent, actually.
Grab your toys and take it back to the carpet. I love that movie. We have to watch it.
When I actually see these movies, I'm going to know every line already.
Yeah, it's true. You've already seen them. You just don't know it.
How many Schwarzenegger films has George been through so far?
2? 1.
Just
we watched
one-
Total Recall.
Total Recall.
No Commando, no Terminator yet.
We were going to do Terminator, and obviously he's seen Predator before. That would have been the first Schwarzenegger movie to watch.
I saw Predator a long time ago. Travis showed me that when I was in like college.
We're
And
gonna
you showed me Terminator
Yeah, a
too. I
long
think
time
I was
ago.
I was in high school.
Yeah.
You showed me Terminator, but I don't remember
T1,
it
T2 is going to make
too
an
good.
appearance on this show, definitely.
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. But Kindergarten
Yeah.
Cop is a guilty pleasure for me. I love that movie.
Yeah.
And it's good because you're in it. So you should
I'm gonna say it. Jingle All the Way is a guilty pleasure for me too.
Yes, that's-
Just it's
For
so
Sinbad,
bad,
though.
it's terrible. But you
for
know,
Sinbad. You got to watch
Yeah.
that for Sinbad. He's awesome in that movie.
he is. Yeah.
But yeah, Schwarzenegger's that same guy like Eddie Murphy. Like they're gonna do a bad movie. There's no way.
Right.
Even Tom Hanks made a couple duds. So, he's entitled.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, but this was not one. This was a perfect film. This had everything of it. Even the soundtrack. Like I say, Nile Rodgers working his magic. There was an Eddie Murphy track played. There was, quite a 80s New York vibe to some of the music going on. I was up for it as a kid, definitely. And now it still sounds fresh, which is amazing, except for the Eddie Murphy bit.
And was that 88? So I was I was close to 10, 12, 14.
What was the exact release date of this movie?
the exact day? I don't know.
You were like,
I know it was definitely 88.
at least the month.
It was like June
Was it a summertime?
29th of 88.
I'm thinking I saw this around
Summer.
August, September 1988,
Okay.
I think.
I was born earlier that year.
That's good to know.
Wow. Yeah.
That's an
Well, for me-
important moment in your life.
This
Yeah.
movie had it for me as a teenager because it had all the right F words.
It had
all,
the swearing,
all the right
it had,
humor, had
it
some
had
boobs.
it had boobs, it had ninja fighting of
ninja
of
fighting,
some variety.
Eddie Murphy,
Yeah.
and Darth Vader. I mean, you
I-
can't go wrong.
This is a perfect movie.
Absolutely.
I'm just gonna hot
It's
take.
one of them, definitely.
This is a perfect movie,
but again,
And
we
John Landis.
mentioned
knocking it
so-
out the park.
dude. Landis is like, why?
You might have to go back and watch Blues
He's-
Brothers just to get some Landis
He's
respect.
amazing.
Blues
Like,
Brothers is his best
He's one of
film,
my
for sure.
favorites.
Yes, he is. He
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah, he's,
Like
he's
everything,
fantastic.
everything Landis that you showed me has been brilliant.
Mhm.
Well, you know what? You didn't love Blues Brothers. Maybe it's time to revisit.
Well, that's because I was stupid.
He was
then.
still, is this satire, George?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that movie was actually way better than I
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
I
it
thought
is.
it was at the time.
100%. I've decided as a result of watching this film today, I'm watching Animal House again. I've not seen Animal House for maybe 10 years now.
We have to
I'm
watch
like,
Animal
Is that
House.
John Landis?
That is John
That is
Landis.
also John
we
Landis.
we have to watch that.
Yes, we will watch.
And
Animal
he
House.
directed a good few segments of one of my favourite sketch films of all time, which
Twilight
is... No, he did direct some of that. Amazon Women on the Moon.
Oh, yes. That which is
Wonderful.
Arsenio Hall. My favorite skit is the Arsenio Hall skit. on that.
Right. Again, you know...
Man, ain't no Thelma here. That's when I found him. That I knew he was a comedian, but when I saw him in that movie, he was like, it was like watching Home Alone. Like my favorite part of Home Alone is Daniel Stern. Like his scream with the spider.
Wow.
Every time Daniel Stern does something, it's hilarious to me. And Arsenio Hall became the new Daniel Stern for me. Like when I watched Amazon Women from the Moon, the movie was okay, but his skit was hilarious. And I'm like, this guy's going to be something. And I was right. Damn it, I was right. Now he's nothing, but then he was.
Hey, he interviewed Jason Voorhees on a late night show.
Yes, he did.
So he was something forever.
Oh my gosh, I've seen that. You just like awakened that memory in my mind.
Yes.
Because like Jason just like stares at him.
Yeah.
And like threateningly. The
it's
entire
great. And
time.
he touches his arm.
It's fantastic.
It's so uncomfortable.
So good.
Did you ever see that, Richard?
I have not seen that. No.
When Jason Part 8 came out, he was in New York, and Kane Hodder went on Arsenio Hall in full costume with a machete and sat on the couch and was interviewed by Arsenio Hall
As Jason.
as Jason. It was the longest, cringiest 6 minutes you'll ever watch.
That's not going to go down well, is it?
But it was perfect.
Well, no,
'cause
it was good though because
he stayed in character.
What do you think Jason would do being interviewed by Arsenio Hall? Nothing.
Nothing.
He just stared at
Tense
him.
up every now and
Yeah.
then.
He just
and-
stared at him menacingly for 6 minutes.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
And then he goes, "Let's go to a clip."
That's
That's how he ends it. Let's go to a clip. And it was the great boombox scene where he kicks the boombox.
Yeah.
So good.
I'm going to watch it. I think Dan has just linked it. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
I'm
else
gonna
do we
watch that
talk
one.
about? Did we hit everybody? I think we did hit everybody.
I think so.
I mean,
think
you
we
missed
did this
the-
movie justice.
Toby Hooper's little cameo at the party. That's weird. But I guess him and Landis are tight. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
good old Toby
that
Hooper.
is weird. I hadn't picked up on that until you mentioned it, and then I was like, oh yes.
Wow.
At first
Interesting.
glance, you think it's Spielberg, but then you're like, no, that's not
Right.
Spielberg. That's Hooper. You really can't tell, though, because there's a little
That's the second time
poltergeist
now,
on
right?
either one. Yeah.
Yeah, Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hooper played Spielberg, and no, actually Spielberg played Hooper, directing Poltergeist.
I did watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre the other day, actually.
Which one?
Just going to say the original.
Go
It's the
on.
only one worth watching. But
Yes.
I think I might have mentioned this on the Chasing Tone. It just freaked me out that it started off with a huge warning. This film contains uses of cigarettes and phrases that may no longer be appropriate. And the first scene of the film is a load of corpses that have been like tangled together to form disgusting sculptures in a graveyard.
And
That's
they weren't
far
smoking.
more.
They were not
Yeah.
smoking.
No
Yeah.
warning. No warning about that though.
That's why
Wow.
when I want to watch Texas Chainsaw,
like-
I pop in the 25-year-old VHS that I have.
Dude.
That way I'm not getting warned about cigarettes and language.
Texas Chainsaw, like they literally put a chick on a meat hook.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're warning me about cigarette smoking?
And let her
Exactly.
slide down slowly, and then put her in a freezer and made her wake up mid-freeze.
Oh
yeah.
my
Yeah.
god.
But the cigarettes are offensive.
Yeah. There's
and the
there's
phrases. Don't forget
And
the
the phrases,
phrases.
the phrases.
might
Oh
be
yeah, the
offensive.
phrases. They may show attitudes that may have changed over time.
Oh,
It's like,
and abuse of the handicapped.
Dude, I
well,
like.
I think that's
for-
what they were
for
going
certain.
for.
That should have been in there too.
I was like, no, I'm fine with that. It's the bit where the old man hits her with the hammer that he
Yes.
can't quite strike. That's the bit that sticks with you. Yeah, the noise. The noises.
thump.
Such a great film. So well done.
Yeah.
I've
I don't
been
get
on a
warnings like that on my horror movies because I still watch them on VHS.
I'm just really, really lazy. I mean, I've got quite a lot of them on DVD, but I don't think I have I'd have to watch them through my Xbox. So I'm just lazy, and I end up restreaming everything.
Well,
and,
there's a 4K release coming from Second Sight in the UK soon. They do good work, so I
Nice.
imagine it'll look great. Texas is one that I showed to a group of my friends here in KC. Shout out to Dave, a good friend of mine who can't see any gore without wanting to vomit.
Oh.
So he drinks
show
his
him
way
how.
through all these movies. I've showed him all the Jason movies except for X. We still have to show him X, but he nearly vomited twice during Jason Goes to Hell. It was awesome.
I think we all did.
So
We yeah, for different reasons though.
for different reasons.
Have you ever tried the method that I use with my 6-year-old daughter by just telling her that it's pretend?
I've tried, but he's already retching at that point. No, so we showed him
okay.
Texas, and we're watching as a big group. So he's drinking away. Well, about halfway through, there's that chase in the dark as she's going back toward the house from the van.
Yeah.
We pause it because he needs to pee. So we're sitting around just chatting. Hey, everybody, how we're
You might
doing?
want to vomit while you're in there.
He comes back out, and he's all chatty, and we're having a good time, and he's half drunk. And so I hit play, and she screams, and he's like forgotten where we were before the pause, and he screams. It's just like, welcome back. Okay, we jumped in.
Yeah,
so
welcome back.
I love it when people take films like seriously. I can't do that anymore. I wish I could.
You know, I don't know if they have a choice though. Like I said before, my oldest son has a squeamish stomach.
Right.
And he sat and he watched First Blood with me, and he was fine with that whole movie. But the time when Stallone stitches his own arm up, and
He turns white.
he
turns
completely white,
like clear.
and went into the bathroom for a good 20 minutes.
Yep.
Wow.
And I'm like, dude, you all right? You good?
That used to happen to me more than it does now, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Exorcist.
I don't like the extreme gore stuff. My
For
other
him, it's
half watches Dr. Pimple Popper, and it doesn't get any worse than that.
Ugh.
That's really
For my son,
gore.
it's the medical stuff. Like
Yeah,
even
me too.
The Exorcist, he was fine watching that, but the scene in the hospital where they do the bleed.
Oh, yeah.
The machine, the thing in her throat.
Encephalogram or whatever.
Oh, he was like, nope.
yeah, it's
Nope.
it's weird. It's weird. I think in slasher movies and stuff like that, people get an axe in their forehead or something, and I watch that and I look to see how realistic
How they
it looks
did it, and how
because
it
I
worked,
know
yeah.
that they didn't put a real axe in a
Right.
real head.
Yeah.
So I want to see how realistic it looks, and I
Yeah.
appreciate it when it looks good.
Yeah.
Like how I think it would look if if that actually happened in real life. And I just kind of appreciate it. But then there are scenes in movies where they're doing something. I don't know what the difference is. Like medical is one thing where people actually have to endure pain,
Right.
and
If it's
and
something that can happen to you, it makes you a little bit more
and
nervous.
procedures that are
Yeah.
not fun. Like, I mean, how many people do we know that have had open heart surgery?
Right.
That open heart surgery is gory as anything I've seen in a slasher film.
Right.
Like,
Funny you should mention that.
It's
'cause-
necessary,
Oh,
right?
no. Are you getting that done?
Well, no, I'm not getting it done. But a relative of mine did get it done in the 80s, and my mum had a video of the procedure because she was a
Whoa.
nurse. And I accidentally put it on and watched it, and I saw about 5 minutes of it, and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this at all.
And
Yeah.
it's worse because this is real life.
Right. It can
Yeah.
happen.
And it's crazy to think about because your son got squeamish watching Rambo stitch himself up.
Right.
Stitches are something that happen every day. Like stitches are no big deal.
Right.
For the medical people. Shout out to the medical people. They are a different breed. But like, people that work in like trauma and they deal with car accidents
Yeah.
and gunshots and blah blah blah, and they like literally they are the hardest people
For sure.
mentally because they deal with that every day, and they just try their damnedest to not let people die.
Yeah.
Dude, like
That's the hardest
that
job
is
on the planet.
insane.
Like when I
Yeah.
was watching this movie and I was watching the scene with the bathers, like that reminded me of my life. And I got a little squeamish.
Hey,
Because I'm
you
like,
know
that
what
could
though,
happen.
Travis? You keep that royal penis clean.
That could happen.
Before
free
we
of
get
any,
completely into the weeds, have any of you guys seen the film Barbarian yet?
Oh, I'm watching
yet.
it tonight. It's on HBO Max, and I just resubscribed to HBO to watch this, so I'm going to watch that tonight.
I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll all enjoy it. It's a clever take on the sort of Texas Chainsaw Massacre type of film,
Okay.
but it isn't anything to do with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Even though my review was it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it's
Well,
not.
that's okay because the
There's
movie
no
that came out
chainsaws.
had nothing to do with Texas Chainsaw Massacre either, and it had that title.
Yeah, right. No, I think you'll enjoy it, Dan. I think you'll really enjoy it because it's a disappointing film overall because it's not The Exorcist and therefore it's not the greatest horror film you'll ever watch.
Right.
But it is a different horror film. They've been intelligent with some of their choices in it, and although some of it's dubious, some of it's excellent. I think you're going to really enjoy it.
I will check it out.
When I really enjoyed the X movie that came out earlier this year, the
That was
Ty
good.
West one, that's a
Yeah.
good one. And then Pearl, the prequel to that, was way different, but also way good. So now I need to see the third one.
Kevin Bacon is in a massive series of adverts over here for a mobile phone network. Like,
Nice.
it's huge. And
Now-
when asked why, he was like, he got sued for something or he lost a load of money. or he lost out on a film and he said, I just got to work to make a load of money back.
Yeah.
So I'm taking any work. And I got so much respect for him at that point. For just
he learned that from Nicolas Cage after Nicolas Cage paid, $20 million for the first issue of Superman and then stopped working.
Yeah. Yeah, actually there was
dummy.
who was it? The Aaron Judge. I think it was his 60-second home run ball was on eBay for millions of dollars, and they asked him like if he could buy it, and he was like, I'm at the end of my contract, like I don't know, like I don't have a contract going forward. I don't know if I could afford it.
Right.
And it was like, this is crazy. Like, you're Aaron Judge, dude.
Right.
You're gonna get a huge contract somewhere. Just buy your home run ball. Like,
Yeah, right.
it's crazy.
It's crazy.
But no, I said that
just
because
went walking on us.
yeah, it's crazy.
It was crazy.
No, I said that because the whole thing about Kevin Bacon, because you watched Wild Things for who was in it.
Yes.
Who you thought you might see something.
Yes.
But what you saw was Kevin Bacon's
I
dick.
saw a 45-degree semi-angry pickle of Kevin Bacon, yes.
I'm not sure I like where this is going.
Not on purpose. It was just kind of there.
Did you know that Nile Rodgers said that the jingle for the Soul Glow commercial in Coming to America, which is the film we're talking about,
Yes. We did watch that, didn't we?
Yeah.
is his proudest moment? And I'd say, I get it, dude. That is one hell of a jingle. That sticks with you forever.
We're still singing it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Every time I hear a song go high pitch, I do that Soul Glow thing.
But also, like, it's quite trendy these days, like, for gentlemen to put various oils in their beards.
Yes.
And you see people with, like, very oily... Every time I see one that's too oily, I'm like, he's got an extra layer of Soul Glow.
It's true.
It's happening.
It's true.
So it has definitely become part of canon, this film. And, yes, it's a thumbs up from me.
Soul Glow is so important, it should have its own pop.
Yeah.
Like it is pop culture. Like if you say Soul Glow, everybody knows what you're talking about.
Except for me 3 hours ago.
3 hours ago, right?
Yeah.
Now whenever you see
But
somebody
now you do.
with tight curls and a little wetness to it, you're going to sing the song.
Yeah, I'm going to be like, Soul Glow. They must be using Soul Glow.
Yep.
Oh,
So
well,
good.
this was a perfect movie.
It is, and I'm so happy you guys made me watch it again, because I was overdue a watch of this.
That's what we do.
And it perfectly kind of interrupted my current regime of watching the weirdest films I can find. Although last weekend I watched The Thing, which I have, again, I've not seen that for 10 years. And that's
another John Landis movie. No.
It's definitely one of my favorite 80s sci-fi horror films.
It's one of the best.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So, right, gents, I think this is my time to exit stage left.
Stage right, even.
All right, Richard, do you want to pimp your normal podcast for the good listeners here?
Yeah, if you want to hear Brian, Blake, and myself talk vaguely about guitars, guitar pedals, amplifiers, and that sort of stuff, then you can check us out on the Chasing Tone podcast, which is on Apple and Spotify and all podcasting platforms. And check out wamplerpedals.com if you want to buy a pedal. And that's my plugs done.
Okay,
Nice.
and this episode should launch around December 7th. So besides being a rather infamous day, there may be some interesting news from the Wampler camp by them, so check
There
out...
will definitely be some news by then, for sure.
Check out
Yes.
wamplerpedals.com.
Faux
If
show.
you play guitar, check out Wampler Pedals. If you don't play guitar, take it up and then go check out Wampler Pedals.
And if
It
you
is
don't
the
do
best.
either-
It is like the hobby that keeps on giving.
Oh my
Nice.
gosh, you can never master it. That's why it's so good. It's
Yep.
so much fun.
But if you don't do either of those, listen to the podcast because they're fun.
They are very
That's
fun.
true. I mean, they talk about guitars like kind of
You
Every
get to
n-
hear
every now
Richard's
and
awesome
then.
accent.
mostly it's just BS, and it's pretty funny.
See.
We have a
We
good
get-
time. That's our motto. Have a good time
Yeah,
all of the time.
I think the non-guitar stuff is sometimes better than the guitar stuff, because the guitar stuff is like, oh my god. I mean, for me, I've been like following Guitar Gear for like 20 years. So
Get
like,
the fuck out of here.
seriously. So like, it's like, oh, this company released this pedal, this company released this guitar, and I'm like,
It's difficult, right?
I'm like, I don't care. I want to hear I want to hear Brian's squirt Richard with a spray bottle.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want.
There's plenty
But
of that. There's
it's
definitely
hilarious.
Plenty of that. No, you gents are absolute gentlemen. I've had a
Thank you.
fantastic time, and if I don't speak to you all in person beforehand, have a fantastic Christmas. But I'm sure
too.
You as
we'll
well.
trade the odd message here and there.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so
time.
much, Richard.
An absolute pleasure. Speak soon, gents.
So, Travis, what are we watching next week?
Next week we're going to watch a movie
A movie.
that has nothing to do with Whirlpool and nothing to do with Coming to America. Kind of. But a classic. We're going to watch. What season are we in?
I have no idea. 3?
We are pushing what holiday?
4?
We are no, not our show. The actual season, like seasonal.
Oh, we're coming to wintertime.
Wintertime, close to Christmas. We're gonna watch one of the greatest Christmas movies of all time, and it's not Die Hard.
I was gonna say Die Hard. We already
Elves.
watched that,
We're
though.
doing Elves, right? Elves?
We're gonna do Elves maybe
Yes.
next year.
Damn it.
Ooh. Or, I mean, Elf
It's
is pretty
kinda.
good.
Elf is good.
Elf is great, actually.
We're gonna watch the 1984 classic
Mm-hmm.
Gremlins.
Oh,
Gremlins.
I suppose that is a.
I don't know that
Christmas
that's the
movie.
reaction you want to hear when George knows he's going to watch a movie.
Have you've seen it, right? Or have you?
A very, very long time ago.
I mean, that was like a childhood. movie.
yeah, like it
Yeah,
was on regular
background
TV when
type
I was
shit.
like 8 years old.
Yeah, you're gonna
Like,
watch. It
I know
with
what a gremlin is.
right, but you're gonna watch it with a film mind now,
Hey,
Yes.
guys.
an educated mind.
I've never seen Gremlins.
Wow.
Shit! Is there
First
any
time
science
watch.
in this
First
movie?
time watch. First time watch. First time
Is
watch.
there any science fiction in this movie?
Oh, I hope
A
not.
whole shit ton of it, yes, but not like lasers and robots and
Is
shit.
it a coincidence that First Time Watch has the same initials as For the Win? I think
Don't
not.
know.
I think we'll find out after
First
I
time
watch this
watch.
movie.
Shit!
First
I can't
time
believe
watch
you've never
For
seen
the Wind.
Gremlins.
I
Like,
know, right? I've been waiting because I
How does
figured
that
we'd watch it
happen?
for the show. For years, you've been saying we're going to do Gremlins, and I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'll watch it then.
Okay.
So there you go.
All right. Well, if you hate it, I apologize, but I don't think you will.
I don't think I'm going to hate
Is
it. It looks pretty fun.
Directed by John Landis.
It's not John Landis. It is. Hold on.
Spielberg's involved, isn't he? I thought this was a
Spielberg
Spielberg
produced.
joint.
Never heard
This
of him.
is a. Fuck.
Kidding.
I almost said Jonathan Demme, but he's. Silence
Isn't
of the
there
Lambs.
Oh my
somebody
God.
involved in it?
A
That's like
Jonathan
huge?
Demme version. Ooh, Phoebe
Of
Cates.
Gremlins? Sweet.
Of Gremlins would be amazing.
Yeah.
Joe Dante. And of
Joe
course,
Dante,
Joe
that's
Dante's wonderful. So this will be great.
Yes. And it's got Phoebe Cates in it.
And it was
so-
written by Chris Cole.
That's
Oh,
the name. I knew
this-
that there was a name.
This is
in it.
going to be
Called what?
great. Can't wait. How could this go wrong? It can't. It'll be great. Or it'll
Hey.
suck and I'll destroy it.
It's got Corey Feldman too, so we're good.
It's okay. It's like a precursor to another movie that you love.
Oh, I'm sure.
Word.
I'm sure. Okay. Well, we'll see you
Cheers.
guys back
Okay.
next week.
Great.
Thanks for joining us. And as always, keep on Georgian.
What the fuck does that mean? Okay.
What?
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Keep on Georgian.
Thank you for joining us on the Remedial Film Class podcast. As always, you can find us at facebook.com/remedialfilmpod. And hey, you want to drop us an email? remedialfilmpod@gmail.com is how you do that. We'll be back next week with my first watch of the 80s classic, I guess, Gremlins, which, I mean, is it better than Elves? Probably not. Do you get Elves without it? Probably not. So I'm going to go in with that attitude. See you next week.